What's up, nerds? Welcome back. As you all know, everybody right now has been talking about war. So today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to talk about war. No, not that one. This one. War for Earth-3, issue number 1. Now, the first thing I'm going to point out before I actually start talking about the comic itself is that the cover is a little bit misleading. Because as you will see here, who is that that's on the cover? Yes, that would be Nightwing along with a Talon, Owlman, and then in the background you can see some other people. I think that's Match using his powers. No, that's Superboy using his powers in the middle of Ultraman and Match. But yeah, Nightwing isn't in this, and neither is Superboy. Match is in it, so that's correct. But this Superboy is not in it. So I don't know why they put them on the cover. I don't know what they were trying to go for there, but I guess we'll find out at some point, maybe in the future. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that I was thinking about it because I read this whole book, and then when I finished it, I closed it, and I was like, wait a minute, Nightwing wasn't in this story. But whatever, you get what you get anyway. Let's go ahead and dive directly into the book. But before I do that, one more preface. This one actually does have to do with the story matter here. I don't know if anybody read the Crime Syndicate series. I did. I reviewed some of it. I think like the first few issues, and I think I reviewed the last one. But it was okay. It could have been better. But I guess I enjoyed it well enough to, want to keep seeing what they're doing with Earth-3, especially since everything's been going on in Suicide Squad, which is a pretty good book. I'm not going to lie about that. Everything kind of revolved around this whole thing in Amanda Waller's plan with Earth-3 like for a while. So now we're finally getting into what her plan was, sort of. But you'll see what I mean by the end of this book. Anyway, let's go ahead and start with this here. So we start out, we're on Earth-3, and we see where there's just this gathering of a bunch of people dressed up in suits, and there's one person who's giving a speech, and he's saying, let's all give it up for the big man. And then, everybody starts clapping. And then he's talking about how it's been 10 years that they've been living under that big blue thumb. So obviously, as you can see, it's Ultraman. Anyway, he says, 10 years today. And who here isn't richer for it? Enemies in the ground, coffers full to bursting. We can see where people are literally bringing him presents and shit, and they're like presenting them to him on their knees and crap like that. So he goes on saying, where would we be without Ultraman and his mighty crime syndicate? To whom would we bow? I don't even want to think. So on this momentous anniversary, let us raise our glasses together, and we can see where he's joined by Power Ring, who's just stuffing his face saying, God, I love these things. So the rich man goes on to keep saying, to Ultraman, long may he reign. And even Power Ring is there like, those idiots are missing a hell of a party, am I right? Because basically the other members aren't there. There is a picture of Johnny Quick, who is, this universe's Flash. So there's a picture of him there, but the other two seats are obviously for Owlman and Superwoman. So they are in here, and we'll find out where they are in a few minutes. But anyway, before we get to that, we see where Ultraman freaks out, and he just decides to go ahead and roast everybody and destroy the whole shit. So he kills all these people. And let me remind you, all of these people are like millionaires and billionaires. So he just killed a whole bunch of rich people just because he was annoyed. So, I mean, you know what? I'm going to let that thought go. Anyway, he takes off flying, and then Power Ring is just there. He's like, nice. Anyway, we go over to downtown Metropolis, still on Earth-3, and we see a giant portal open, and a veritable army walk through with a whole bunch of people that we probably will never see again. And you'll find out why in a second. But we see Amanda Waller talking to Match, telling him, like, go ahead and let everyone know we're here. He says, no, you do it yourself. She's like, all right, fine. I pissed off the teenager or whatever. So she says, Brainiac, could we give little boy Gray his attitude adjustment? And then we see where it's this Brainiac Etrigan mashup. And so he kind of starts like fucking with Match's brain or whatever, saying, Etrigan, the Brainiac 666 at your service. So I'm not gonna lie, I actually kind of like that mashup. I don't know why. Something about it is just very pleasing to me. But anyway, So we see where Match jumps up on top of the Daily Planet, he rips off the globe, and then he says, Waller am take planet, and he throws the bitch down on the ground right in front of her. So she says, well said, and then she says, people of Metropolis, I am Amanda Waller, and this is my Suicide Squad. Sorry to say, we do not come in peace. We don't, now don't get me wrong, peace is our ultimate goal, but I'm afraid today will be quite violent, and quite honestly, in a time and place where, Ultraman is their, like, leader, their overlord, the person whom they all must worship, I don't think that they're that, unaccustomed to just wanton violence at a random moment. That might just be my interpretation of the situation, but, well, you'll see. So we go into this bank and we see a whole bunch of, like, different colorful characters. These two in particular are threatening the guards, talking about, like, drop them or you're dead, and then the girl is saying might be dead either way, honestly. And then we can see where there's just more chaos kind of going on. So we come back outside to Amanda, who is saying, this city is mine now. If anybody out there has anything they need to say about that, I'm all ears. And then we go up into the space the space where the space things happen. Anyway, so Ultraman is standing there and he's just kind of glaring down at the Earth. We don't know why just yet, but you're about to find out. When Power Ring flies up and says, that was some kind of exit, my man. Billionaire bacon stuck to the walls. Those fools' great grandkids will be scared of you. He says, speaking of which, I don't know who this lady is in Metropolis with the big old brass wrecking balls. You got eyes on that? But Ultraman just tells him, no, my eyes are elsewhere. And that's where we go over to Gotham to find out, A, what he's looking at, why he's so annoyed, and B, where the other two are. And this is exactly where they are. In the Owl Cave. And we can see here we have Superwoman, Donna Troy, and Owlman. And as you can already see here, yeah, they're busy. They're doing something at the moment. So then we go up a little bit closer where she's just taking joy in this because she knows he's watching. She's even saying, that's right, keep staring. As Owlman is he's a little tied up. Puns. So she says shut up to him because he couldn't really talk, but he made a sound. She's just like, shut up. And then Power Ring is saying, so we're going to go do something about it, deal with this Waller, and he just tells him, you go deal with it. I'm busy, and then he flies off. So Power Man just says, all right, yeah, no problem. He says, are you fools really shooting at Power Ring with bombs and bullets? And that's where we go down to the main bank robbers from earlier, talking about they've got a Green Lantern. So he comes in and he just makes a whole bunch of energy projections of himself, and they're all just kind of saying yeehaw as they're writing like these bombs and shit. So his ring is telling him that's an interdimensional invading army. You're a moron and they're baiting you. So he just says, all right, then let's take the bait. So they all start falling down, and this is why I was saying a lot of that army that Waller brought, yeah, they're probably never going to be seen again, because as you can see, a bunch of them are dying now, and many more are going to die in just a minute. Anyway, Match is standing there saying that the bullets are loud and everything. So he's saying, bullets no hurt, me am, and then he gets punched by a giant green fist, as Power Ring says that he's annoying, and he's like, yes, you are, as he continues to drive him basically into Earth's core. And then he goes on to create a monster truck with a giant fist and just start driving over all of these different, nondescript characters who we'll never see again. So they're not important. So he's talking about, like, he's doing the whole Sunday, Sunday, Sunday type of thing. And then, the Ring is just saying that he's embarrassing. He's like, embarrassing? Or am I awesome? And he does this thing, which quite honestly reminded me of the first Super Smash Brothers game. You remember the glove thing, Mr. Hand, or whatever the hell it was? Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that fucking thing. God, I hated that damn thing. But it was always so satisfying every time I got to kill that damn thing. Anyway, so he's about to attack Amanda Waller, and he's talking about, my ring thinks this is a trap, but my ring's kind of a jerk. You trying to trap me, lady? And she's like, you? No. Figured we'd just beat you, straight up. And he's saying, how's that going? To which, all of a sudden, Black Hand comes up behind him saying, death is a black hand, ever reaching for your throat. And he's just there like, what the hell? Basically because his construct is being, evaporated, disintegrate. I don't really know how you would describe this. It's melting is kind of what's happening. So Amanda Waller says, going well, but don't feel bad. I tend to cheat. So we leave them alone for just a second to go back over to the, I was going to call them lovebirds, but I don't really think that what this is love. So Anyway, we have Owlman and Superwoman. He's saying that was really something, to which she says, was it? He says, you know it was. I saw that twinkle in your eyes. She's like, gods, stop talking. So all of a sudden, that's when Ultraman shows up. And Owlman was starting to say, yeah, but for real, though, this is, I'm going to assume he was going to say fun or something. But then they feel like the cave shaking. So she's saying he's here, and then he says he is what, why? So I mean, you really couldn't figure it out. Aren't you supposed to be smart? Like, I know that he's mentally damaged and he's probably not as good of a detective as Batman is, obviously, but at the same time, like, you should be smart enough to figure out why he'd be pissed off. So Ultraman does come in and say he's had enough, to which she just kind of starts laughing and says, have you though? And then he cuts like the owl car in, or I'm sorry, the owl mobile in half. So Owlman's even there just impotently saying, like, you can't just, oh, okay, you can, whatever. So she's saying Clarky doesn't want to talk. He's mad to the bone. I'm supposed to be his girl. So we see him standing there and he's, very... The one thing I don't like about this Ultraman is that he is less domineering and tyrannical, and more so just petulant and childish in many ways. That was kind of explained in the Crime Syndicate series why he acts this way, but at the same time, it's still just not all that intimidating when he's just acting like, a child throwing a tantrum pretty much all the time. Anyway, he says, keep trying me, Donna, see what happens. And then that's where we get, another message from Waller saying, I really hate to interrupt again, but we all need to talk. So Ultraman is just saying, again with this woman, and Owlman is asking who she is. But she's over there saying, in case you're curious, Power Ring is down. His ring seemed very amused and gave me your extension. So Superwoman is saying, RESPECT, do you need to go take care of that? But Ultraman just says, you know what, Owlman can go take care of it. And of course he gets all pissed off saying, like, really, you just smashed into my cave, destroyed a bunch of my shit, and now I'm supposed to what, just go fly off because you said so? And then they both just give him these looks. And then the next thing we see where, yeah, he just was like, all right, fine, I'll go. So he says, one day those two will find out. The Owlman's superpower is vengeance. So now he's continuing to kill even more of these people. So he's flying through and is saying, did I ask to be the C point of some psycho love triangle? And he says, no, I did not. And that's where he sees Siren, who, if you will remember, if you read any of the Suicide Squad series, they actually kidnapped her from Earth-3. So he says he sees her, and then he sees that obviously she's coming at him. And she says, I got him. So he says, you think you can scream the Owlman out of the sky? And then we see where, yeah, she mostly does that. She just screams die and causes the plane, or the owl jet, whatever the hell it is. She causes it to kind of start malfunctioning and shit. And he says, direct hit, Dinah. You want to bring me down? Fine. She's like, oh, shit. So he decides, I'm just going to go and steer the bitch right into her. So she calls out for Waller, and that's when Match just comes out of the Earth's core saying that the core is too hot. So she's just like, whoa. And then he punches the damn owl, causing it to break and, avoiding any further death. Well, I'm assuming, unless there was someone wherever it landed. But anyway, Owlman's crawling out saying that guy would be a lot scarier if he didn't talk, and Amanda Waller agrees with him. So we go back over to Superwoman and Ultraman. She's over there still taunting him, saying, big, powerful Ultraman, what's he to do with me? The only thing he's ever wanted but just can't have. So he's telling her, you won't like how this game of yours ends if I'm the one who ends it. She just says, oh, I beg to differ. So he tells her, you'll push me too far, Donna. I keep trying. And then he just flies off. So she says, come down here and win it, farm boy. But again, Amanda Waller comes over the comms saying, my apologies again. It's Amanda Waller bearing more bad news. Your Owlman crashed and burned. Did you know this one doesn't have any powers? I was surprised. So, for whatever reason, this is where Superwoman decides to become very protective and says, don't you hurt him, that one is mine. So I guess it's more so possessive than protective. But anyway, Ultraman is just standing there and he's giving her this look as he's getting even more annoyed again. So we're going to leave that alone for now and go over to something completely different, which, if you were actually following the Suicide Squad story, Rick Flag in the very beginning was kind of taken out of commission and put into a jail cell, but then he escaped when Red X was captured that one time and got let out, but not by Red X. He was let out, I believe it was by Peacemaker. And so they've been kind of working together. They've assembled their own team who they've been working, together with whatever. So we see where there are a bunch of people in here. There's the Fisherman, Bloodsport, a Mirror Master, Tigra, Cheetah, a Parademon for whatever reason, Ambush Bug for, again, whatever reason, and Lorzod, I think it's not Valzad, I think it's Lorzod, whatever the hell his name is. So this is where Ambush Bug just decides to, go ahead and, as he says, he's breaking the sexual tension and the fourth wall for a little Rick Flag recap. The Suicide Squad's disgruntled... Remember how I've mentioned before that words are sometimes hard? Yeah, it's another one of those days. Anyway, he says the Suicide Squad's disgruntled field commander has gone rogue, defusing Waller's neck bombs and recruiting a team of former squad members to stop whatever it is she has planned for Earth-3. But Waller being Waller, she saw Flag coming and attacked his team with a giant alternate dimension Clayface monster, where we lay our scene, and yes, we can very much see that is the scene. So the Bloodsport is saying, like, the Parademon is sunk because, yeah, he was very much taken over by the Clay. And then it starts to take his gun away, so he's just saying, like, give me that back, and he just starts shooting at the Clay. And then he realizes, he's like, oh, damn. And he says, Fisherman's on me, because, yeah, he just shot this giant hole in him. But that's when we go back over to Lorzod, who's using his ice breath on the damn monster, and then he pulls Peacemaker out because he was about to be taken under as well. And then Cheetah is saying, don't have to tell me twice. So he says the Mud Beast is quite large, and Peacemaker's just like, you think? So Mirror Master is busy trying to turn like some of the Clay into basically glass so that he can make a big mirror and just port everybody away, but that doesn't end up working. So while that's failing, Rick Flag gets on his walkie-talkie that do people still use walkie-talkies like ever? Anyway, he's calling out to like Dr. Rodriguez, who was pretending to work for Amanda Waller, even though she was secretly helping out, this team. But then that came to a head. Amanda Waller tried to have her killed. She managed to escape. And now we're about to find out what's going to further happen to her. Because he calls out to her asking for help. And then, like I said, Mirror Master is failing. So she's just there. She hears what's going on. And then she says, okay. Am I really doing this? And then she stabs herself. Well, I guess she injects herself with this syringe. And we don't really know exactly what it is at first. But yeah, she does it. And then we see where she starts turning into sand. Saying like, do I have powers? It's supposed to give me powers. I don't feel anything. So come back over to the team fighting against Clayface. And Peacemaker saying, that's not working at all, you guys. Get me back down on the beach. So Cheetah's even asking, like, what are you going to do? Hit it with your little sticks? And then Lorzod is saying, like, yeah, she's right. We cannot defeat it with force. We must send it away. Send it home into the Phantom Zone. But we can see where that's about to not work either. Because then it grabs a hold of him. And then it's about to, basically win the day, I guess. But we can see where Cheetah's saying, it's got him, it's got me, it's got us. So we see where everybody's kind of being sucked away. And then Peacemaker saying, just let go or whatever. But we see where they're all being like sucked up into the Phantom Zone. Doesn't end up working because Clayface comes crashing back down. Peacemaker saying, feels like we're losing, and even Rick Flag has to agree. But we go back over to Earth-3 for the moment. We see where Superwoman and Ultraman are kind of floating over the city. She's saying, like, my fault. You're the one who sent them down there to deal with her. But he says, I assumed they were competent. She says, since when? So we go down to the ground where we see Amanda Waller is just waiting on them. So they come down, and then he's saying, I'd have gone and dealt with it myself if you weren't such a... And she cuts him off by saying, such a what? And then flies ahead. Or no, she doesn't fly ahead. She gets tackled by Match. So he pushes her into a building or whatever, and he's just kind of holding there for a moment. And she's asking, and what is it you intend to do with me? He says, keep the Superwoman busy. She says, well, doesn't that sound fun? Anyway, we go over to Ultraman, who is now starting to attack, the team. And we see where Power Ring and Owlman kind of seem to have gotten away from, Waller's grasp. So he's saying, you got me. And she says, not yet, I don't. So he lashes out again and misses her again. And we don't really know just yet how it is that, he's missing her, because Amanda Waller obviously has no powers. But he kind of like tries to crash into her saying, like, just die. And you would think, okay, that time he must have gotten her. But no, she says, suppose I could die. But then you wouldn't even know why I went to all this trouble. So, of course, he's looking perturbed. He's trying to figure out, like, how the hell is she doing this? So she says, we didn't come here to fight you, Ultraman. And he misses again. She says, that would be a fool's errand, misses again. And she says, and I'm no fool. We need to talk, you and me. I have a proposition for you, mutually beneficial. But then he finally figures out what's going on, and he stops Johnny Quick, because Johnny Quick was obviously moving her out of the way every time. So she just says, okay, listen, I can explain all of this. Justin, he says, our Johnny Quick? How? Because if you remember, like I said, he's dead, or he's supposed to be. So he says, doesn't make any sense. We buried Quick long ago. To which Johnny Quick tells him, like, it does. It will. Just hear her out. So come back over to the other team, and we see where Culebra is coming up with Ambush Bug and Nocturna. And she's saying, whoa, he was right. Flag and his team are getting eaten by a Clayface kaiju. But Ambush Bug says, which is why I suggested walking away from all the shooting. So we can see where, yeah, they're still losing. But Nocturna says, how could you know that? Did Waller tell you what she was? And he says, no. It's how Suicide Squad number 12 ended. And again, there's that fourth wall breaking. But it is Ambush Bug, you know, that's his whole thing. So I usually kind of get a little bit annoyed by fourth wall breakers, but you know, whenever it's an established part of the character, it does make sense. And for Ambush Bug, it does make sense. So whatever. So Culebra is saying, like, we should go help them. And he's asking her, how would we do that? But Nocturna says, well, we can't just sit here on the beach. And he says, of course we can. Just watch. So he sits down, and then all of a sudden we see where there's an eruption of sand all around them. And they all kind of get, you know, surprised by that. And we're about to see what that is. So, I mean, you can basically figure out what it is. But you're going to see anyway. So the team is about to lose to Clayface when all of a sudden, yeah, Rodriguez shows up in her giant sandy form. She's telling them, you know, sorry, I'm late. And then she puts her arms around Clayface and starts, like, trying to calm him down. So Nocturna's even asking, is that Rodriguez? Has she always been a giant sand monster lady? And Culebra's just like, I'm gonna say no. But Ambush Bug says, aw, I want to hug a Clayface. And she starts calming down Clayface, saying, there we go, you're okay, just relax or whatever. And she basically, like, absorbs Clayface into herself. And then that's where, you know, obviously she's able to let the rest of the team go. And Rick Flag is asking, like, what the hell's going on? I'm upside down and backwards. Somebody report. So finally they're actually released, and Peacemaker saying, we were dying, now we're falling. So they kind of fall down, but they don't, you know, they don't die from the fall. So she's there saying, okay, that was really trippy. And that's where, again, Rick Flag is also kind of surprised. He's like, Rodriguez? She says, am I naked? I feel naked now. And then Peacemaker's asking, how did you kill that thing? Which she says, oh, I didn't kill it. I just kind of, like, he's still in here. I just kind of, you know, put him to sleep. So back over to Earth-3 with Amanda Waller still staring down Ultraman. And we can see where she's slightly taller than him, but we're about to find out why that is. I didn't really think about it until right now that I'm looking at it, and I was like, why is she taller than him? But she says, I don't think you want to rule this world, Ultraman. Not really. You want the respect, the spoils of war, sure. But policy, law enforcement, governing is beneath a man like you. He just doesn't really give an answer. So this is where we see she's standing on like a stone or whatever, and that's why she's taller than him. But she says, you think I'm here to trick you? To take your power? How could I? You are the most powerful man who ever lived. How do I control you? With what army? The earth itself trembles in your shadow. What I do want is your headaches, your frustrations and distractions. And that's where we see she's pointing at Superwoman, who's fighting Match. And then she says, this will always be your world, Ultraman, but be a god, not a king. And he's asking her, if I'm a god, what can you do for me that I cannot do for myself? She says, headaches and distractions, gone. Like I said, and that's where we see she has the Talon just attack Owlman. She says, let me see the angles, let me pull the triggers. And he lifts him up over his head, and then she says, I'm very good at it, snaps again, and then he snaps his damn back, Bane style and shit, and I was like, damn, that, okay, point proven. So she says, we are all tiny little ants to you, always have been, always will be. Let me worry about the scurrying. So as you can see, he's very seriously considering it. But we come back over to the other team as Rick Flag is saying, I don't know exactly what Waller's up to over there, but I know she's been planning it for a good long while, alone in the dark. I know she's got herself an army, made up of monsters and villains from across the multiverse, made up of our lost friends and family, and now she has a good head start. Our odds are trash, but when are they not? Amanda Waller is wicked, knows each one of us way too well, but her neck bombs are down. She can't track us. She can't kill us. Not that easily. This is our chance to knock that woman down off her tower, make her pay for our blood she's spilled, to get all the way free. whatever it takes. And then Ambush Bug is just saying, does anyone else feel tonally out of place in this scene? And yes, you very much are. But then he calls out to Suicide Squad and says, let's do this. But then we see where there's this voice coming from off panel. But I just want to focus for a second on Rodriguez, who's now writing a Clayface worm. That's pretty disturbing. But anyway, the voice off panel is saying, look at you, Flag, finally embracing the nickname. And then we see where she's standing in front of a team of basically an amalgamation of some of the people she brought and some of the people she now has, including Match, Ultraman, Power Ring, Black Hand, and then this isn't Owlman, it's actually Talon wearing Owlman's like cowl. So she says, what should I call my new team? And that's where we see that ends. And it's to be continued in Suicide Squad number 13. So thus kicking off War for Earth-3. But see, like I said, Nightwing wasn't in the story. He's very prominently on the cover, but he wasn't in the story. But anyway, yeah, that's where that leaves off for right now. And like I said, I've actually been enjoying the Suicide Squad series. I think it's actually, done pretty well. I like the characterizations. I do find it a little bit annoying that they had, Ambush Bug in there because again, yeah, he doesn't really tonally fit the rest of like what they've been going for in the themes. But I guess, as a little non sequitur, before him, they had Culebra basically as kind of like the comedic relief, and now Culebra is kind of being basically played more as like a straight character. Well, I'm pretty sure she's not straight, but you know what I mean. Like, she's just kind of straightforward in her approach. She's much more of just like a fighter, that type of thing. She doesn't really crack jokes like she used to. So I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening with that. I've always kind of enjoyed like the Earth-3 type of thing. That was one of the first things I loved back when I went back and started rereading all the old like crises or whatever. And we got to like that very first time that, the Justice League had to fight the crime syndicate. Yeah, the crime syndicate. I was like, what was their name on their Earth from Earth-3, the very first time they had to do that back in the day. So I really enjoyed that story, and ever since then, I've always really liked the characters, especially Owlman, because I love owls. So the fact that his old design was terrible, like it was just terrible, but this design is actually much better. So I don't know. We'll see what's going to come from this. Could end up being very interesting, I suppose. I do like that little dichotomy. Well, not dichotomy, that little switch that they have with Talon taking over for Owlman. Because, I mean, they both have an owl motif going on. So I guess that does kind of make sense, But we'll see what's going to happen with that. Because I was going to call him Towelman. Like, I was literally going to put the names together. Talon has actually been running his own game. He's been pretending to not really all be there, but he is actually there, and he's working with somebody else, but we don't know who just yet. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see what that whole thing is going on. I'm hoping that there's actually like a payoff there, because if there isn't, I will riot all by myself. But anyway, I think that's going to do it for me on here. We'll see what's going to come from this. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think is going to happen with this whole War for Earth-3 thing that's going on? How do you feel about it? Where do you think this is going to go? Just any thoughts you may have, share them with me down below in the comment section. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like the video, make sure you're subscribed, you got the notification bell hit, and if you would like to share the video, I would definitely appreciate it. See, I learned to shore all of that up. I got it all concise. I didn't have to think about anything. But anyway, if you're done here, then go and read a book. Maybe this one, if it's your type of thing. But if not, then I will see you on my next video.